You're listening to the Speaking Tongues podcast. I'm your host, El Charisse. Each week, I sit down to a conversation with multilinguals where we discuss and celebrate language, life, and culture through our own perspectives. Episode 97, Speaking Singlish. Hello, language lovers. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Speaking Tongues, the podcast and conversation with multilinguals. This week, I'm delighted to share this conversation with Marcus, where we talked about one of his languages, Singlish. Now, I've been very curious about Singaporean culture and language for a long time now, and I'm so happy that Marcus had time to share a bit of his culture with me and with all of us. In this episode, we talk about the languages of Singapore and how they mingle and coexist. We talk about the education system and which languages kids learn, code switching, and even the various types of Singlish that can be heard in Singapore. Marcus talks about the good English movement that started in the early 2000s by discouraging Singlish, but now has evolved and changed over time. He teaches us some Singlish phrases and words, and we even have a slight diversion about the meaning of annual leave, the versatility of the word can, and how abbreviations play a big role in Singaporean vernacular. Big thank you to Marcus for this lovely conversation and sharing your languages and culture with all of us. If you enjoy episodes of Speaking Tongues, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the Speaking Tongues podcast on Apple Podcasts, and like and subscribe on YouTube so that other language lovers like ourselves can find the show. And if you've been a longtime listener of the show or even a recent listener, you can now support us on buymeacoffee.com. Links to all platforms are in the show notes. Okay, let's chat. Welcome back to another episode of Speaking Tongues. I'm here today with Marcus. How are you today, Marcus?
Doing quite all right, quite good. How about you?
I'm great. I'm so excited to talk to you. And I'm in New York, you're in Singapore. So I always love having these long distance conversations, and excited that you had a chance to sit and talk with me today.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me on your show.
Absolutely. I like to start each episode with the same question, and that is, what is your first language and which languages have you learned to speak?
So, for me, I would say my first languages are English, Singlish, and probably Mandarin Chinese.
Okay.
But yeah, so however, maybe just to add a bit to that, my heritage languages, which are the native languages of my parents. For my dad, it's Teochew, and for my mom, it's Fuchao. So I do hear both growing up, but they never spoke it with me and my sisters.
Mhm.
So we are just very at a very basic conversational level with those languages.
Oh, interesting. Do your parents do they speak each other's heritage language?
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
Yeah, my mom speaks my dad's better than my dad's who at speaking my mom's. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I think that's partly because my dad's native language, Teochew, is a lot more common. It's a lot more commonly heard in Singapore as compared to Fuchao, which is my mom's native language.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so both of them, like for my dad, he speaks Teochew with everyone in his immediate family, so his siblings, his parents when they were around, and same vice versa for my mom and her language.
Mm-hmm. So Singapore is very like multilingual, multicultural. What was language learning like when you were in school, or what were you hearing when you were like school age? And I imagine, you tell me if I'm wrong, but I imagine there's people that you maybe grew up with, went to school with, that speak so many different languages. What did that sound like? What was that like communicating?
A very brief background on the ethnic makeup of Singapore, at least in my life. About 75% of the population are ethnic Chinese, about, I think, 13% Malays, and 8% Indians. So, and the remainder, it's I think most of the remainder consists of Eurasians and then many other ethnicities. So with about 3/4 of Singaporeans being Chinese, ethnic Chinese, like ancestrally. So at least from my family, my grandparents or great-grandparents, depending on which side or which ones in particular, came from China. So I'm at least third generation Singaporean. And
Okay.
anyway, Singapore's history from full complete independence is pretty young, right? We came to independence in 1965.
Mm-hmm.
And so this year we'll be celebrating our 57th
Yeah,
birthday, I
57.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so with that ethnic makeup and considering the government's efforts to um, bring the different ethnic groups together over the years, since as early as or the point where the efforts became a lot stronger was since around the late 1950s to all the way to now, I suppose, like through various extents and different efforts, right? They would come up with such things like the bilingualism policy. So that meant that English was chosen as the lingua franca.
Mm.
So that was not the ethnic language of any of the main ethnic groups.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so no one would be at a certain cultural privilege over another.
Right.
So okay, there's that English is the main language, and it was my medium of instruction growing up from primary to secondary school and all the way to university.
Mm-hmm.
And then the government deemed what's called our mother tongue. And this is what I've realized differs from other countries, right? Speaking English everywhere in the classroom for every subject that we learn. And we have a mother tongue specific lesson time in school to learn, let's say, as an ethnic Chinese, by default, the mother tongue would be Mandarin.
Mm-hmm.
For Malays, it would be Malay. And for Indians, it would be largely Tamil, because most Indians who came to Singapore over the past couple of decades have come from the southern part in Tamil Nadu.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Tamil would be the mother tongue. Otherwise, from what I've read, they could pick one of the other Indian languages. Yeah, Hindi, Bengali, Gujarati. Yeah.
Interesting.
So I did hear these languages at least, and yeah, so these were the most common ones.
Mm-hmm.
English, Singlish, especially.
Did you
Yeah.
have an opportunity because you and your heritage is ethnically Chinese? Did you have that opportunity ever to learn Malay or to learn Tamil, or were you kind of, or did you want to? Did you did you have a chance to?
Okay, just based on memory, I don't recall having had to or having had the opportunity or chance to learn Malay or Tamil in primary school, and it never crossed my mind to want to do so. And if I'm not wrong, in secondary school, I think in so okay, the education system, for most people, it's from 7 to 12 years old. That's primary school for 6 years, and then from 13 to 16 years old, for 4 years, that's secondary school. Yeah. So, in secondary school, in Sec 1 and Sec 2, right? Can't remember which year, but I had an opportunity to, and I can't remember if it was a must, but I did take some Malay classes.
Mm.
Yeah, it was just a few lessons, and we learned very basic stuff. And not for me, but what I've come to know of is that the top 10%. Okay, so here's the thing about Singapore, and it kind of gives you a glimpse of the education system a bit more into how it is in Singapore. Because at the end of primary school, there is a national exam
Mm-hmm.
that um, okay, by now I think many things have changed, but anyway, um, we all have to take this national exam that determines which secondary school we get to go to, um, right? And the top 10% across the whole of Singapore would be given a chance to pick up a third language, which could be, um, let's say, if you're ethnically Chinese, right, and you already have English as your main language of instruction and you learn Mandarin Chinese as your mother tongue, then you could pick up Malay. I'm not sure about Tamil, but I think most people go for things like French or German or Spanish. Then later on, I think Japanese was introduced, and much later on, Arabic. Yeah, but this has been only reserved for the top 10%. I
Wow.
haven't very okay. This is the top 10% thing. It was, as far as I remember, it was how it was in 2016. That was the last time I checked it out. Yeah, but maybe it's the same still.
So with so many languages in Singapore and I guess on a daily basis and they're, thank you for giving that, ethnic breakdown of like the groups that are there. Um but how do people, with the languages that we're talking about, um do you ever like encounter people or are there people who maybe speak all of these languages? Are there people who code switch, maybe go back and forth between like, you know, Mandarin and maybe they have to do business in Malay or something like that? Like I have never been to Singapore. I've heard amazing things about Singapore and I love the food that I've tried from Singaporean restaurants here. So I'm
Oh, all
long
right, right, yes.
I'm long
I've been to
overdue.
New York, so I've
Mhm.
tried some Singaporean food in New York.
What did you think of it?
Ah, okay, I gotta admit, that was 3 years ago. How was it? I visited just a little coffee shop, like a mini restaurant kind of place. It was okay,
Hmm.
and there was another bigger restaurant, but but we sat down and we realized like, ooh, the pricing was a bit too much or something like that.
Welcome to New York.
Yeah, maybe this is something else you would have heard, like how food is really affordable here.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I have.
or at
I've
least, yeah.
I've heard it's really affordable. I have to go. I have to visit sometime. But just speaking about, how people interact with one another
Yep.
and the different ethnic groups, like are there people who maybe speak, four of these languages and, they use them in different ways or, maybe speak one
Mhm.
language at work, speak another language with friends or something like that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. The most recent and uh recent strong memory I have of a very code switching, code mixing scenario that comes to mind was at my family's Chinese New Year lunch. At the dinner table, there was my parents and some relatives from my mom's side. At any one point, right, like in within a minute, I would hear English from the same people. They would switch languages between English, Mandarin Chinese, Fuzhou, and Teochew.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Then I'm just like, oh, wow. And like I feel like if I had recorded it and then analyzed it, it would be interesting to see like at which parts of the conversation does the language switch to Fuzhou? Is it something that's more emotional? Something
Mm.
like right, like what register is it uh, that requires a certain variety that maybe carries forth the message more strongly,
Hmm.
or maybe English is used more when with technical jargon in modern society. A lot of words also happen to be transliterated or translated in a certain way, but still sound very Englishy among friends. Or at the food center, you can you'll be able to hear multiple languages. It really depends on the ethnic group of the speakers,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe inter-ethnic conversations also can be rather colorful, and you see how people accommodate to each other's speech.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh
Um,
man, I love
yeah,
that.
and while Singlish seems like a variety of English, a dialect of English, whatever you want to call it, right? I've come to notice that there are different Singlishes as much as there are different Englishes.
What? Really?
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if people have done research into like, okay, Singlish based on ethnic subgroups. Yeah,
Mm.
things like that.
Mm-hmm. That seems like it would be the case. Like, now I
Yeah,
want to know about this. That's so interesting. I didn't even consider that, but that makes all the sense in the world that like it would be different between someone who's ethnically Chinese and someone who's ethnically, Indian, I think.
yeah, yeah. Maybe
Ah.
even just thinking about New York English, whether it's by someone who's black or white or Asian,
Mm.
or if someone is a more recent immigrant,
Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah, you might hear a generally New York accent, but the dialect, the specific nuances and words used can differ as well.
Yeah, that's so true. So we're talking about Singlish. And for people who are maybe saying, "What's that?" I should have figured it out by now, but tell us what Singlish is and how it's used in Singapore, how long it's been used and where it came from, and tell us what you know.
So Singlish is if I'm not wrong, it's a shortening of Singapore colloquial English, or it can be just Singapore English. As much as there is Taglish in the Philippines or Tagalog English, or
Mm-hmm.
like Hinglish in like Hindi English and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
So it consists largely of English as the source of the words. I'm pausing because I'm thinking in a very obscure words, like I was about to say, as the lexifier. Because like okay, gotta be careful with the words. English contributes to the most of the vocabulary in Singlish. At the same time, if we think about other influences, there's Mandarin Chinese, there's Cantonese, there's Malay, some Teochew and Hokkien. And this then really depends on who is speaking it. There can be um, more Tamil and maybe some other languages. Yeah, but these are the main ones that you would hear in Singlish.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from words, so aside from words that come from other languages that get mixed into Singlish, there is there are key distinctive features of Singlish like sentence structure,
Mm-hmm.
pronunciation, intonation. As to when it started, I think it's hard to pinpoint when, but it I think since if we look up studies, right, since the 1980s, there have already been studies that have looked at what is Singlish,
Mm.
and most prominently in the year 2000 was when the then Prime Minister Goh Chok Tong. I really hope I'm getting my facts right, but anyway, I'll just go with it. Um, he came up with this Speak Good English movement
Mm.
to promote the use of good, and I'm using like my finger quotation marks, good standard, proper English in
Mm.
an effort to, and also at the same time with the hope to get rid of Singlish. Uh,
Oh.
yeah, so there was this movement since 2000. Um, the movement still exists, but over the years, um, I'm not going to try with the milestones in the years, but over the years, the stance it has taken has shifted from no Singlish to okay, Singlish is there, it is here to stay. Let's know let's learn how to differentiate English that can be understood and
Mm.
used internationally as compared to Singlish that we can embrace and hold on to in Singapore,
Mm-hmm.
and who knows if it goes global in the future, but to be able to differentiate these varieties of English,
Right.
yeah, that's been the um, stance that is now taken.
Hmm. I'm glad that people are taking that stance because why would you want to get rid of Singlish? Like it's so like an intangible cultural part
Uh-huh.
of of being Singaporean, I would imagine. And it's like
Mhm.
it's such a special thing. So I mean, I hope that that movement to hold on to it continues to grow because we don't want to lose that.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
um and I'm glad that you mentioned like in quotes good English because what I was going to ask you is about the perception of Singlish versus good English, and I wonder if you see any type of generational or class breakdown of who finds it acceptable and who finds it, abhorrent. Like, is it something that maybe like older people or more wealthier people look at differently than maybe younger people or more working class people?
Okay. Yeah. Oh, great question. I think we can look at it at least on two fronts. So one is by age, the other is by awareness. Yeah, just a very vague way to put it for the second part. So the first one is kind of uh clear to some extent, right? About age. So older people tend to frown on Singlish, um, and see it as like, oh, you need to and okay, and the thing is sometimes they cannot um keep out their own Singlish, and they say that Singlish is not good,
Mm,
but then yeah, to some extent they can't escape from it. So generally the older people, whereas younger people um are more accepting of it and use it more liberally, sometimes to the disdain of teachers in classes or like in school presentations. uh, then yeah, that's where a certain line can be seen as drawn.
mm,
Yeah. So on the other side, it's about awareness to where it may not be about age. It might be someone who's older who's more aware, or someone who's younger and less aware about
uh,
the difference that there is this that we can draw a difference and recognize that Singlish is not bad English. There can be bad English, but I think, especially if looking at what constitutes something to be called a pidgin or Creole or dialect, then if we see Singlish as being something, this variety that has been passed on, and you see features repeated across um, a, a huge number of people across a generation, then you can see that, okay, this is not just something that's broken that needs to be fixed.
right.
This is something that is there, and we can use it as an in-group thing. And there are, it is a register that is more appropriate to use uh, than standard English in conversations with friends, with
Mm,
people you are closer to. Otherwise, you might sound more distant,
mm-hmm.
less familiar. Yeah. So
Okay.
there is space for each. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to say like, here, this we are speaking 100% this or that. Sometimes it might be 90% and 10% or whichever, but yeah, even yeah, it might be even hard to say like, oh, what is New York English versus Californian English, or
Mm-hmm.
general American English versus um general British English, if
Right.
there is such a thing, because people would argue like, oh, the UK is huge. What do you mean by British English even?
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's true. Um, let's talk about the language. I would love to hear maybe some ways that Singlish varies from quote standard English, and maybe some examples that you have for us to kind of hear the difference.
Just by some words, right? Words from English that if you had not known that this was used in a Singlish context, you'd go like, huh? So, blur. If I say blur, what do you understand? Okay, maybe I'll use it in a sentence and you interpret it.
Okay.
Okay. I've told you many times how to go through the steps required for this task, yet you failed time and again. Why you so blur one?
Does it mean like confused or stupid?
Yeah, something like that. Right? Like in standard English or in international English, non-Singlish, it's more like something that's not clear
Mm.
visually.
Mm-hmm. Right. Something that's not clear. So is that what that sentence would mean if you're saying that, if you're using that word blur?
Right? Yeah, yeah. So you interpreted it correctly. So like it's so blur, you like why are you always maybe confused and not fully aware of the situation? Why can't you get a good grasp on what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You keep repeating the same mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
even though um, I've even told you about it and warned you. Or, yeah,
Yeah.
just one example.
Okay.
Maybe another word. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, would you like to hear a non-English word or an English word, and it's more guessable?
Um, oh, surprise me. Let's challenge today.
Okay. Today is my off day. I don't need to go to work. Yeah. Today is my off day. I don't need to go to work. So what is off day?
Off day. You know why that's throwing me off? Because we say that too.
Okay, okay.
Like
Then what
off
what do you what
it
do you mean? Like
it's
if
your
just
it's your off day, so like you're off. It's like a vacation, or like a vacation day.
vacation day.
Or it's a
Ah,
day if you're working, when you're, let's say if you have a job where you're on a schedule, maybe an off day is a day that you're not on the work schedule, so you don't have to go into the
okay.
office.
So that's something neutral.
Yeah, is it the same?
Yeah, yeah. Because
Oh yeah.
otherwise, I think maybe certain varieties of English would just take it as a day where you are not feeling your best. You're feeling
Oh.
off, like down in
Oh.
your spirits or something.
Mm-hmm. I think that if I had heard the sentence like I'm having an off day, I would take the off as like the the day itself is off, not I'm off from my duties of that
Oh,
day. Yeah, that's how I would understand it if that's what it meant. But the way that you described it, I took it as like let's go to the beach. I don't have to work today.
we all have a number of days of leave from work that we're given for the year.
Hmm.
So the official uh, work word you would use is I'm thinking using my annual leave today or something like that.
Oh,
But then you might say like, oh, tomorrow I'm off. My
it's
next week I whole week off.
I think that's something we share with Singlish, that, we say we have that day off. You know what's funny? Like annual leave, I never heard that term until recently, but I only heard it from like British or
Okay.
Australians. I've never heard it in the US until recently. And now people are saying, oh, I'm taking annual leave. I'm like, what do you even mean?
Then
It's like, oh, I'm
what was
off today.
but before you heard it in the US, the term that you were used to was only off day.
Off. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, okay.
Yeah. Off day, or sometimes like vacation day.
Right,
But
okay, we never say, oh, I've not come across anyone say vacation day
Okay. Okay.
in Singapore.
Yeah. Um, it's so interesting, right? Just like how we and I think this is kind of happening too with like, you know, our world getting smaller and working with more
Yeah,
people from around the world. Like a lot of terms are being shared across the globe, and how we talk
yeah,
about it, because I think about it now that we say vacation day, but that's what I always heard it called as, like, oh, this is your vacation time. But like no one ever goes on vacation because
right.
we only have like 2 weeks here of vacation. I don't know how much is standard in Singapore, but in the US it's a shame that we only have mostly 2 weeks vacation time for the whole year. So maybe
Right.
annual leave is, but it's only like a couple of days. So why is it annual? Like,
This is what I wondered also, and like just I feel the way I explain it to myself is that annually you're given this amount of days.
oh, that makes sense. That makes sense.
It's nothing about the because if we say um if a festival happens annually on the 9th of August, we annual annually feels like, wait, is it a specific day that happens every year, the same day each year? But
Mhm.
no, annual leave is just like, okay, annually this is what you have. Use it when you want across the year.
Yeah. Okay, now I understand. How about some common maybe greetings or um things that people would call one another in Singlish? Like is there anything like that, or any type of ways to talk about people or to talk about common experiences like the weather or food or anything like that?
Okay, okay. About expressions or greetings. Um, so uh, people like maybe kind of younger people, we might just in a very uh, I think typical international English way, like we might just go like yo, sup, hello, hi.
Mhm.
Um, oh, okay. So this is something I realized in my traveling a bit here and there, going to like Western countries, let's say Canada, US.
Mhm.
Um, More often than not, um, we don't quite venture out to say how are you unless we really want to know how are you,
Mm.
how you are, how you're doing, right? Whereas maybe I'm not sure about where you are, but some places in the West, if you say how are you, it's just like a total greeting. You have no regard or
Yeah.
don't quite care. Like if you respond with like, "Oh, I haven't been doing too well," you're like, "Wait, what?" Just like, "How are you? Good. Okay, moving on."
Exactly. Very accurate.
Right? So yeah, whereas here, if we do want to actually know how someone is doing, we would say that. If we don't, we just like, hey, hi, then okay, just wave, and like if we're just walking by each other.
Mhm.
Um, if more colloquially and maybe more heard of for me when I interacted with people of with different like outside of my typical social circles, we might hear of people saying like, "Hey, long time no see, thought you died already." So long time no see. I thought you died already.
Oh, you died
Like
already.
it kind of rhymes.
How do you even respond to that?
Then like, hey, you also, hey, you good or not, bro? The kind of thing. This is likely to be used only among very may not be necessarily friends who are very close, but friends who are familiar enough about like the dynamics of the situation, and it's a very in-group kind of thing
Mm. Mhm.
to see like, hey, you still alive, ah?
You wouldn't say that to your boss.
Oh, never. Unless I don't know, unless you're that close and the boss is that chill.
Mhm. So I'm listening to you and I'm kind of picking up on something. Um
Yep.
is there a cadence to Singlish or a tonality
Yeah,
to it? Because as thinking even of like Mandarin and the tonality that's there, like,
right.
is it influenced? Is that tonality influence Singlish at all in any way?
Okay, that is talking about where it came from. Maybe. Yeah, I think linguists have done some research, or maybe a lot, but I have not read enough. So there is influence from Chinese languages, um, and oh man, is it called stress timed intonation? So okay, if I were to just switch to a very much more Singaporean Singlish way of speaking, then the way I thought it would be a bit more like that.
Mm.
The so when I talk, it feels a bit more staccato.
Mm-hmm.
Like each word, each syllable is very equally spaced out.
Right, right,
It's
right.
not like if I were to just speak like this, like how I have been speaking with you, I
Mm-hmm.
kind of vary each the length of each syllable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But in Singlish, or no, okay, maybe more about the accent, right? So in Singapore English, the way we talk, it's more chop chop chop. Like it kind of gives off that kind of feeling. I think each syllable, I okay, maybe let me try to keep it that way. So I think each syllable is more equally spaced. Then when you talk, also depending on the situation, we might go up and down a little bit, but the syllable timing still quite quite equal lah.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah, and just now the last word I use la. La is one of the discourse particles uh that is very distinctive of Singlish. So there's like la, le, lo, me, ho. And also if you vary ho and ho, also the meaning also quite different one lah.
Oh my gosh. So when are you using all of these and what are they called? They are just
Discourse particles
discourse
or
particles.
clause final particles, utterance particles. It varies depending on which paper you want to look up. But
Okay.
particles is the word you want to look out for if you Google it.
The particles. Um ha- w- w- so many. What do you what do you what do they mean? What do they signify? And how do you know when to use which one?
Mhm.
Do you? Or
Okay,
does it
so
matter?
yeah, it definitely does. So okay, here's another word that is definitely English, but it is by and large used in a very Singaporean way here. So can,
Hmm.
typically in non-Singaporean or okay, maybe just right here, right now, I would like acknowledge that um our close neighbors up north, Malaysia, their English or their version of Singlish, which they call Manglish, is very similar to Singlish.
Okay.
So just like putting out there that we are not totally unique here, and we enjoy this shared identity. Anyway, um, what is it? So we can, right? As
Hmm.
a verb, typically you would use it as an auxiliary verb. Like I can do something, I cannot do something, or can you get that done? Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, I can do it, right? But in Singlish, you just say like can lor, can meh, can hor, and each one um would could carry a different emphatic meaning, could change the meaning from like a, declarative like statement kind of thing, or it could change it to a question, like clarification, like can meh? Because meh expresses incredulity, doubt. Then if you say can hor with a rising tone, it's like trying to seek confirmation from the other party. Like if if I say, hey, I use this app to go book the ticket, can hor? Then the if the other person party wants to express confirmation, then the person can just say can one lah.
What?
I like how I
So
can see all your
efficient.
expressions, but yeah, like I can see all your expressions, but your audience hearing this cannot see how your jaw is dropping.
I love this. I love the efficiency of these particles. This is amazing.
Yeah. Then you can do like lengthening also. So you can go like can. And that, I mean, okay, that kind of lengthening might occur in non-Singlish varieties of English as well. Can't think of it right off the top of my head. But yeah, anyway, okay, back to the ones that are more distinctive. So the particles, right? You can use can ha. It shows like, oh, I realized that this should be able uh I should be able to get this done this way.
Mm-hmm.
Or I think that it is a high likelihood that I can get it done this way. And I'm just trying to get that bit more affirmation from you. Like, like so I use pay now, is it like that? So like that do can already, is it? Can then the other party might go like can la. Then la is kind of like a softener in
Okay.
this context. Though la, depending on the situation and how it's expressed, can express annoyance or impatience as well.
Mm-hmm. That is so fascinating.
Yeah,
That's so interesting.
yeah, and it's amazing because we are not taught this, and it's hard to pinpoint exactly at which point each one appeared, um, and how it has reached how it is now and how it has been for the past at least 20 or 30 or more years,
Mm-hmm.
where it's if you know it, you know it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't quite know how to explain it, um, but you know how to use it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm really I love this. I really, really love this. I think that's so cool. Um, you mentioned Malaysia really briefly and said that there are some similarities between the English variety spoken in both places. But what do you think, or what have you noticed that makes something like so Singaporean, like in speech? Like if you're listening to someone and maybe you can't see them, but you hear them and they'll say something and you're like, I know this person is from Singapore.
I think one thing is about how we have tons of abbreviations
Mm,
everywhere. Uh, where do I start? Okay, so let's say in transport. Um, I think in the US, you guys say freeway or motorways or highways.
yes, all three of
I'm not
those.
sure which one.
It's regional. It's regional
Okay,
because in my area we say highways. Out in California, they'll say freeways.
right.
And I think in the
Okay,
South they might use motorway. I'm not 100% sure.
right. Um, and in Singapore, do we only say expressway? We say expressway. I'm not sure if it's only. We say expressway. And there's PIE, Pan Island Expressway, there's CTE, Central Expressway, there's BKE, Bukit Panjang Expressway, KJE, Kranji Expressway. So that's one thing in transport. In education, there's MOE, Ministry of Education, there's PSLE, Primary School Leaving Examination. What else? Okay, in the military, there's a lot. BMT, Basic Military Training.
Mm,
There's POP, Passing Out Parade. Um, in in general Singaporean usage, there's HDB, Housing
mm,
Development Board, which is aside from the stat board. Okay, stat board, even stat board is kind of an abbreviated form of statutory. I think statutory board, which is like a governing body at a certain level, right? So like they are on the highest level, there are the ministries. Then under the ministries, there are certain step boards. So HDB is, aside from the name of the board, right, it's also what people normally use to refer to public housing.
Okay.
And something, okay, just a bit of a tangent. Public housing in Singapore is considered as good, and it's made such that homelessness and whatnot is kept almost not seen. Yeah, and even if people are homeless, it might be temporarily. Yeah, anyway, so HDB flats are what people, 70 to 80% of the population live in HDB flats, which people just say like, hey, you live in HDB, is it? Or landed. So landed means landed property. So there are lots of abbreviations. So ROM is like Registry of Marriage. Like NTU is Nanyang Technological University. NUS is National University of Singapore. Yeah, that's a lot. So abbreviations are plenty.
And I bet now that like they're probably even more popular because I feel like everything is getting more like people have shorter attention spans, and like with the internet, like things are abbreviated so much anyway. So there's probably like even more abbreviations than ever before in Singapore.
Yeah, there are abbreviations of abbreviations. So there's so there's PAP, it's a political party, right? People's Action Party. And then there's PCF, which is PAP Community Foundation. So and PCF, okay, I don't think there's a further abbreviation from there, but
Marcus, thank you so much for this conversation. I had so much fun learning from you and talking to you about Singapore and Singlish and so much culture. I learned so much.
Thank you. I really enjoyed sharing all this with you too.
Do you want to let us know how we can find you on Instagram, and maybe we can, learn some more Singlish?
Oh, okay. So this is a tiny side project that's been really on the side. I love Singlish and I want to promote it and share it more with the world. And I've come across more and more people who have shown interest in it. So I started this Instagram account called Good Singlish. It's partly a small part to play on the speak good English movement because that's like, oh, good English, right? And I'm like, you can speak good English, you can speak good Singlish.
Yeah.
So and while there can be bad, so-called bad English, I mean, you can also have bad Singlish, so why not learn some good Singlish? Anyway, if you look it up now, you'll only see one post. But I really hope to push out some content there to share my love for Singlish with the world.
Yeah. Well, you will when the time is right, you'll get to it, and hopefully anybody who wants to learn a little more from you about Singlish can just follow your page and you'll have more stuff on there. Yeah. You will. You definitely will. But I'll put a link to it in the show notes of this episode so that people can check it out. And
yeah, sure.
I'm looking forward to seeing more Singlish.
Yeah. Thank you for your interest. I think it's wonderful.
I thank you again for for joining me and for having this conversation. I hope it wasn't too bad or too painful.
No, it was so fun. Like, also thanks to Heather who linked us up.
Heather, we love Heather. She's the best.
Yeah, amazing, raising like multilingual children in
I know
so many languages.
I don't know how she does Italian. It. I know. And getting her PhD. I'm like,
yeah.
Like, is your cape at the dry cleaners? Because you're a superhero. I have just one more question for you.
Yep.
I like to end each episode on the same question, and that is, do you have any jokes, popular sayings, tongue twisters, cool slang words, idioms, words of wisdom, or words of advice in Singlish, or that you would likely hear in Singapore
Mm,
from any language to share?
okay. Um, I have a few in a few in mind. One is why you so like that?
Why are you so like that?
Yeah, why you so like that? So like that is like that,
Hmm.
right? I'm not sure if that's quite self-explanatory.
To me, it is.
Okay, great.
But
Yeah.
is it
So
something you would say like when someone's misbehaving or someone's acting silly or something like
yeah,
that? Okay.
something that just doesn't sit well with you.
Mm,
You find something disdainful, whatever it is.
mm,
Uh, you just go like, why you so like that one? Can you not? Don't why you so like that?
mm.
Can you wake up your idea or not? So when you get annoyed at the situation, I feel like a number of the examples I've given, it just gives the impression that Singaporeans are a unhappy bunch or something. But somehow these are the ones that come to mind. Um, just one more. His pattern 最贵 badminton or his pattern more than badminton.
His pattern more than badminton?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So pattern, like whether like I mean polka dots, striped, whatever, right? Like pattern.
Pattern?
Yeah. More than badminton.
I'm hearing badminton.
Yeah,
Is
that's right.
okay.
So the sport, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
right. So I think if I'm not wrong, the phrase started out from the one that infused Hokkien into it. So pattern 最贵. So 最贵 is um more than,
Mm.
okay, more than badminton. I think um it's hard for me to find an answer on why badminton, apart from how it's just generally it rhymes. And in badminton you need lots of skill, agility, lots of different stances, and you kind of go back and forth and be quick, very quick on your feet.
Mm-hmm.
So for someone to have lots of patterns, so like in a negative sense, someone has lots of tricks up his or her sleeve.
Oh.
Yeah, like hey, this person one day say his his dog fall sick, next day say his mother go hospital. Yeah, always pattern more than badminton. So it's like this guy is full of excuses. Was
Mm-hmm.
really creative with coming up with excuses.
Mm-hmm. I like that. And I like that it rhymes.
Yeah, right,
I
right.
like those.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for sharing those with us. I'm excited to one day visit Singapore. Hopefully sooner than later.
yeah,
I have a lot to see, and like I said, I've always heard such amazing
definitely.
things about Singapore. So, um I feel
Yeah,
equipped now. I have my introductory to Singlish
yeah.
and to the culture thanks to you. So, um, before I let you go, really quickly, if we were in Singapore and we've been talking like all this time, we've been talking, and we're about to go our separate ways, what would be the best way to say goodbye?
Hmm. See you.
See you.
Or like, hey, bye. Let me think a bit. Okay, this is still very largely, obviously I'm like ethnic Chinese, so very Chinese centric. It's like, hey, I 造 first. Hey, I 造 first. So,
Yeah.
hey, hey is just like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
yo, like just getting your attention, just like saying, hey, um, let's say, um, for whatever meeting it is you're in school at work. And the meeting just ended at 4 p.m. It's 4:01, people are packing up. Then most people are like slowly packing up, still chatting a bit, and you're like, okay, you have a next appointment coming out really soon. So you're just like, hey guys, I zao first. Zao is like take my leave.
So,
Then yeah, zao. Then essentially it just means take my leave.
okay.
Then first. So I'll be heading off first.
Oh, okay. Efficient.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I zao first. See you all next when? Next Tuesday, right? Okay. See you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much again, and I'll be talking to you soon.
Okay, thank you so much. You're more than welcome to come to Singapore, and yeah, thank you for this
Yes.
conversation.
Bye.
Bye bye.